Often, we think that we are hearing those that are talking to us, but in reality, we are listening to ourselves, what we think they are saying to us, mixed with our voice, with our thoughts, with what we believe, what we've heard in our minds the whole day. And this harms not only relationships and the communication with others, but our lives as a whole, because there's a huge difference between listening to what we want and listening to what we need to hear. Let's see a similar situation there in the Gospel of John, chapter 5. When the Lord Jesus went to a place where there were many sick people, and there was a paralytic man who was by the Bethesda pool, like other sick people, because they believed in a myth, in a fable, that an angel would come time to time to move the waters, and the first to enter the tank would be healed. And Jesus went to this paralytic man. He came to him and raised the following question. Pay attention. Jesus, seeing a man that was sick for 38 years, paralyzed, seeing him lying down and knowing that he was there for a long time in that state, said, "Do you want to be made well?" Look at the question. Pay attention to what Jesus asked. Do you want to be made well? Do you want to have health? It was Jesus' question. A question that didn't need to be raised, but to awake the faith of that man, Jesus raised this question. And you will agree with me, there is only one logical answer to this question. The answer should be what? The answer should be, Lord, that's all I want. Yes, absolutely. It's what I want. Yes. In other words, it had to be some kind of emphatic yes. But look at what the paralytic man answered to Jesus. He said, "Sir, I have no man to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up, but while I am coming, another steps down before me." Is that an answer to the question, do you want to be made well? No, that was not what Jesus asked. Jesus didn't ask him, why haven't you been able to enter the pool? No, he didn't ask, why is it so hard for you to be the first to enter the pool? That was not the question. The question was, do you want to be made well? But in the mind of that paralytic man, what he heard 24/7 in his mind was what he said to Jesus. I have no man. In other words, I have no friend. I have nobody for me. When the water is stirred up, to put me in the pool. And when I'm trying, Lord, I'm a paralytic man. I cannot run. I can't use my legs. And someone else goes before me and steps down to the pool. So everything he had in his mind was the reason why he couldn't be healed, because he had nobody to help me. Poor him. For that situation, he was doomed to die, was what he heard in his head. So he didn't hear the question. He heard himself. He heard the voices in his head. And when he spoke of what was in his head. He didn't answer in an intelligent, coherent way, but with what was inside him. Now let's think about us. You may think, if it was him in his place, I would answer with a yes. Yes, but it's not that simple. Because when we are living in a problem, especially when it's for many years, we are having inner conversations with ourselves, and saying things that will reinforce the problem, will lead the problem to go deeper in us. I remember when I had problems in my marriage in the first 12 years, and we had our problems, I didn't explode, I wouldn't shout, slam the door behind me. I would be quiet. And in my thoughts, I had a big and long dialogue with her. She wouldn't hear a word, but there was lots of noise in my head. In my head, I would say everything I was thinking. She would reply me, and I would reply her back, and I would win every fight. In my head, it was like that. The noise was in my head. So when she would say something, I already had the answer on my tongue. Why? Because I was not listening to the real Christianity, but the Christianity of my head, the one I was imagining. Because if she says this, it's because she's that or this. I wouldn't listen to my wife. I wouldn't pay attention to what she was really trying to express to me. I would listen to what I thought was right. Then I judged her. And obviously, we wouldn't go nowhere because she was frustrated, she wouldn't understand. I was frustrated because I thought she didn't understand. And the fight would end because of tiredness, nothing solved, until it would explode after a while. This is quite common in marriages or in a workplace. You think you are listening to your boss, to your employee, to your co-worker. You think you are listening to the client. You think you are listening to them. And nowadays, with the blessed mobile phone that divides our attention, when people are talking to us and we have one eye on them and another eye on the phone, the division of attention harms even more our listening. That's why when you want to pay attention to someone, put your phone on the side, because it is already hard with no interference and to understand what the other person's saying. Imagine with distractions. So this happens at work, at home, in the church. How many go to church? They go there, sit down for 1 hour, 90 minutes, 2 hours. Many words are said, and the service ends, and you talk to them, and they don't remember anything was said. They can't say not even one thing that was said, because their mind was elsewhere. They were trying to listen to something, but not listening to what they needed to hear. This is a serious problem with people. They choose what they want to listen. They think that they already know what they need to hear, but in reality, they are not open to listen to what they really need to listen. God said in His Word there in the book of Isaiah, He said, chapter 55, "Why do you spend money for what is not bread?" You see that it is something that people don't want to hear. For you to say to something, why do you spend money with silly things, foolish things? This is what God is saying here. Why do you spend money with foolish things? The person who spends money with foolish things, they don't want to listen to anyone saying that. Because in their minds they'll think, it's foolishness for you, but not for me. They feel attacked. But it's God speaking. Why do you spend money for what is not bread? And your wages for what does not satisfy? In other words, can't you see that this is not satisfying you? This addiction, this betting, this other clothes that you have no space in your wardrobe, and this extra clothes that you bought won't take you out of this bad place, remove this depression from you, making you more beautiful, and what you're doing is not solving the problem. Then he concludes saying, listen carefully to me. Listen carefully to me and eat what is good, and let your soul delight itself in abundance. In other words, if what you want is to eat well, live well, and have success, so don't be worried on spending money on this or that, thinking, if I have lots of money, I'll buy everything I want and I will be happy. No, if you want to be happy and successful, start like this. Listen carefully to me. Listen to my words. God has what we need to hear. And it's not everyone who have ears to hear what he has to say. Many want to pray and ask. Am I right? They want to speak to God like this. God, I want this and that. Help me with this or that. Many want to ask. They want to speak to God. They want to be heard by God. But who wants to listen to what God has to say? And on top of that, to apply it. Who really wants it? Not many, but God speaks to those who have ears to hear and sense, hear, and they will obey, and their lives will change. But those who are choosing what they want to listen to, fighting out there on social medias, am I right? Pouring the voices that are in their head, and they go to social media and they pour everything out there, these, unfortunately, will remain frustrated, empty, and unhappy because they are surrounded by voices that put them down and not voices that correct them, that guide them, that discipline them, that teach them for good. So you must choose. What do you want to hear? Do you want to hear what pleases you, or do you want to hear what you need? If today's video helped you and you know someone that could benefit from it, share it with them, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, you may do so now. See you later.